So, our good friend BobDaHacker has been a busy hacker this summer and has found and reported a huge slew of vulnerabilities. Let's start by diving into South Park's Matt Stone and Trey Parker's Casa Bonita restaurant. The creators behind South Park bought the original Casa Bonita after its bankruptcy in 2021 and have massively renovated it. Prior to its reopening, they also had a special membership program for their most loyal supporters. This was called the Founders Club. You were able to get in by signing up for their email list before the initial reservations were opened. Members of the program got a few special perks, like early reservations access, discounts at the Mercado, exclusive event invites, and a personalized membership card. Their admin panel for managing all these special VIP members was located at tfc-admin.casabonitadenver.com. And guess what? There was no password protection. The full email list of all these loyal founder members were just sitting there out in the open. This was fixed, but we can look at the Wayback Machine to see what this looked like. Hopefully everyone already understands why having an administrator panel open to the world without a password is a bad idea, so let me just move on to the next point. If you want to sign up for the Founders Club, the registration was done through Supabase. Supabase is a backend as a service platform. That just means they're the ones that handle spinning up a database for you, and they provide functionality like authentication, file storage, and other things commonly needed by apps and sites. It sure would have been great if these features were actually used properly. The signups, for example, were left completely open without any authentication. You could just forward your email and password and get an account created without even needing one of the invite codes we saw on the admin panel page. Creating an account here would also trigger the process for having a membership card made and eventually shipped to the account holder too. After the admin panel adventure, Bob went on to investigate the point of sale system located at service.casabonitadenver.com. This is where the real treasure trove of data and issues were found. Bob checked the admin register out and found the front page to be blank and disabled, but the API endpoint for the admin register worked just fine. Also, for those of you that don't know, an API endpoint is just the URL to a specific server where by calling it with specific data instructions, you can perform some kind of action or fetch some kind of data. Anyways, with the newly created admin account that took less than 30 seconds to make, Bob now had full access to the entire point of sale system for Casa Bonita. This gave them the ability to search and view all customer data through the fine endpoints. And from the admin pages, they were able to search for any customer where their email, phone number, full name, and other details were plain to see. This admin account also gave them access to view any reservations the restaurant had, just by incrementing the IDs. Okay, this incrementing ID setup I've now seen to be an issue multiple times this summer alone. Let me quickly explain why this is bad. When creating any kind of backend system with IDs, you don't want to use incrementing numbers, stuff like 1, then 2, then 3. This ID scheme makes it incredibly easy for hackers and bad actors to easily find and pull all the data from these API endpoints. Normally for IDs, something like UIDs would be used, which is just a special 128-bit number. These are used instead because it's incredibly difficult to try and guess what other UIDs in a system would be, preventing these traversal attacks with all the auto-incrementing stuff. Anyways, back to the admin panel. It was also possible to manage the customer tabs, transactions, and payments among other experiences. And of course, the admin panel had a way to create new products and add complete nonsense to the inventory system. Now, there was just one minor hiccup with trying to report all of this information. Casa Bonita didn't have a security contact. So in order to get Casa Bonita aware of the issues, Bob had to reach out to a friend of theirs that was the CEO of a company that partnered with South Park before, after which things were finally fixed. Anyways, once all was said and done, Bob got some love from Casa Bonita and received his membership card. After 6 months of waiting. Now, while we're on the topic of love, let's check over an Indian dating app, specifically a popular app called Flutrr, backed by the Times of India. This was in Bob's crosshairs as well. Once again, we're seeing the same issues. All of their API endpoints had zero authentication or security checks. Bob was able to log in to anyone's account by simply using their email and saying it was a Google login. Yes, that's right, just their email. No password was needed. We're reaching new levels of bad security I didn't even think were possible. But it doesn't stop there. Not only could you log in as anyone with just an email, but you could also send a message to anyone as if you were anyone else as well. Complete impersonation was possible. Here we can see Bob messaging his new, also Bob Indian wife. Let's congratulate them on their newfound love. May Bob be happy with Bob. Now, what's a modern dating app without swiping? The swipe endpoint was also completely exposed with no author checks. So you could just swipe right on whoever you wanted, and you could swipe as the other person too, meaning you could set up matches between whoever you wanted. Also, I just like to personally think at least one Indian techie probably got their current relationship using this exploit. Imagine the future conversation they'd have with their kids. Hey, Dad, how did you meet Mom? Well, I hacked your Flutter swipes and matched with myself. Truly a fairy tale love story for the modern ages. Anyways, a bunch of other endpoint stuff was out there as well. Stuff like fetching profile data and getting all the classic info such as full names, emails, phone numbers, location coordinates, device info, and even Firebase tokens. Seriously, what is with devs using Firebase and always having some of the worst security practices imaginable? There was also a delete account endpoint, a perfect way to remove all your competition, and you could provide a custom reason for their deletion too. All these issues were originally reported to Flutrr back in November of 2024 via email, though Bob never got a response. So in March of 2025, after being ignored, they publicly responded to the CEO's post on social media trying to bring attention to these issues. A week afterwards, Bob receives a reward for reporting all these issues. They got a $100 Amazon gift card. Flutrr was really showing the love here, weren't they? Though, there's just one tiny little problem with this timeline of events. On August 19, 2025, when Bob published the article publicly, all of these issues were still active and haven't been fixed. Flutrr chose to ignore fixing all of these massive issues that left their users vulnerable for around 9 months. Though, thankfully, 2 days after the article was published, the majority of issues were fixed, except for the sending messages as someone else. But you can't win them all, can you? Now, let's head a bit northeast from India into China. Specifically, let's talk about Pudu Robotics, the company responsible for the famous Bellaba waiters. You've probably seen these cat-faced robots before delivering food in restaurants, but Pudu does a lot more as the world's largest commercial service robotics company. They have entire product lines, including delivery bots, cleaning robots, and all sorts of other mechanical armed robots as well. These robots operate in restaurants, hospitals, hotels, offices, and retail stores around the world. And of course, we wouldn't be discussing this company and their robots if not for the fact their entire robot fleet has massive critical vulnerabilities. This write-up starts with Bob on August 12th checking over the Pudu Robot Management's APIs. And to continue the theme of this video, once again, all of these APIs had near zero authentication or security checks. It seems like they tried doing a tiny bit of security by checking to see if a valid auth token was sent with the request, but none of the permissions or token details themselves were checked when you were calling any of these services. What that means in practice is anyone at all could control any of the robots without too much hassle. We can see that Bob was able to view any given robot's entire call history, and once again we can see incrementing IDs being used. And another issue with all these endpoints, none of them were rate limited. Rate limiting is a common security and performance technique added to endpoints. It basically helps prevent one user from being able to overload the system with too many requests, and it prevents bad actors and hackers from being able to go through every result in an API instantly. As the name implies, it limits the amount of times you can call a specific endpoint in a given amount of time. Having no rate limits means a bad actor could have wrote a small script to fetch every single piece of data from that endpoint and compile their own data dump. Anyways, there are also API endpoints to create calls and control robots the auth token holder didn't have access to, allowing anyone to control and send robots anywhere they wanted. They could also update the robot settings, change nicknames, configurations, behaviors, tasks, and list any storage robots globally. Hopefully, I don't need to explain to everyone why having hundreds of thousands of robots under one person's control is a dangerous thing for everyone involved. Bob knew this as well and went to report these issues to Pudu on August 12th. The sales team ignored the messages, the support team as well, and the tech team. Over 50 emails were sent out and ignored, after which Bob sent out another 50 plus emails on August 21st, and once again they were completely ignored. Given the severity of the issues and the amount of damage that could be caused, Bob had no choice but to start escalating. They emailed various Pudu clients like Skylark Holdings, Zensho, and other major Pudu distributors. Pudu managed to discover Bob's email and send a ChatGPT response back. They couldn't even be bothered to update the your email address placeholder within the AI response. And magically, within those 48 hours after the response, all of these issues were magically fixed. Amazing what can be done when there's public pressure and exposure of your failures to your clients and revenue lines. Incredibly, Bob still isn't done yet. They also investigated Lovense, a company focused on types of tech toys. Bob wrote a very detailed and lengthy article on this, so I don't want to repeat everything here. I encourage everyone interested to check out their article directly, though there is one thing I think we should discuss here. A recurring theme with all these hacks and issues, not only are the issues almost always a lack of basic security measures and an issue of finding who to contact, but the biggest source of concern for everyone at large should be how these companies, even once contacted, largely don't seem to care about their security issues or feel the need to fix things when reported. One of these exploits and bugs in Lovense was known since 2017, meaning it's over 8 years old now. If we don't publicly pressure these companies with coverage, tweets, and other posts on social media, many seem to just ignore the issues and hope to sweep everything under the rug. Now, I might sound like a broken record at this point, but once again, Bob very likely isn't the first person to find these issues. Bad actors have likely found issues with all of these companies and systems before, but kept quiet to collect data and benefit from these exploits. Companies really should have a greater sense of urgency addressing these issues once reported, since the ones at risk in the majority of these cases are the users and clients of these company sites and systems, with their information being out online for bad actors to use for spam, impersonation, and specific targeted phishing attacks. Also, this is far from everything Bob has managed to dig up. Everyone interested in hack write-ups, I strongly encourage you to follow Bob on X and their blog. They have a lot more write-ups ready in the chamber, just waiting to publish once it's safe to do so. Anyways, do the usual like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time.